So, yeah, how's everybody doing? I'm in New York and we're on major lockdown. So, it's a bit strange. But if you follow me on Instagram, you saw that meme I posted. And I also sent it to my family and friends about being an introvert and finding out that your normal lifestyle is called quarantine. It's really funny because for someone who kind of keeps to herself and who does things I don't need to go out and do a bunch of things to feel like I'm doing something. So this is kind of fine with me both on a mental and emotional level. I just manage it, the normal way that I do. Like what do I do? I meditate. I, go over the cards. I tap into my soul. I have those soul conversations when I'm making my jewelry or just when I'm doing anything that kind of gets me lost in what I'm doing. So I'm no longer thinking and I'm kind of just like touching that intuition and that soul kind of conversation. And that's one of the ways you can do it. One of the ways is to just meditate and try to focus on one thing and allow all the other noises of your mind to settle down. And then once you're doing that, you can kind of focus on one thought and you're not overwhelmed and you slow your mind down so you can get in touch with those spaces within you and have those conversations. There are other ways, physical yoga can do that. Anything that really helps you to not think constantly with because we're always processing information constantly, and it's important to kind of shut that down once in a while so you can connect with yourself. And for most of us, we are experiencing this current lockdown, and for me, I know there are negatives to it and they're overwhelming. And when you see the news media, it's constantly being bombarded, the fear. And I'm not saying it's being done purposefully. What I'm saying is it's really we're being thrown. Like if this were a tsunami, I would describe the amount of information, the amount of fear that's coming from the media, and it's overwhelming. Like if I allowed myself to consistently be in it, I would be drowning right now. And I don't know if anybody else feels that way, but that's how it feels sometimes. And one of the things that we can do is to limit the amount of information that we take in to help us stay centered, to help us maintain a sense of balance. In my description, I have a link to a life coach. Her name is Sandy. I worked with her on a professional level, and she has Dream Factory coaching. And I've linked her information in the description. And she has a PDF that talks about designing the new normal in and it's not just for this situation, but when you become pushed out of your comfort zone, how do you reestablish a different level of comfort within your current environment as you find creative ways to traverse that environment and get into a new space. And it doesn't have to be forever, but it's about managing it right then and there so you don't get caught up in fear, so you don't get caught up in being overwhelmed. Hi, Maria. Great to see you. I started early, so I've been talking for a bit. How is your I also didn't get your time for your live that you're doing today. And I hope you and your guinea pig are doing well. I had a guinea pig when I was growing up. Yeah, they're really cute and fun animals. So, getting back to now allowing yourself to get into fear. So, when I, oh, great, Maria, that's great. So, when I decided to do this live, I had no idea that this was going to fall on 444, which is an angel number if you're into that kind of energy, into that kind of spirituality. But 444 is basically a number of stability. You know, in the tarot, it's stability. When you think about it, when you have four legs of something, it brings some kind of like stability and structure into the foundational energy. So you can see it from real live to a spiritual perspective. That four can bring stability within your life. And you know, this happens to be on that date 444. If you know, the fourth month, the fourth date, and you add two and two together, you get the third four. So from the books, because I looked into it before, 444 is an angelic number. It's about bringing stability to your physical life, getting in a space where you're healing with the earth as well as yourself, and understanding that the universe has your back. Like you're supported even when you're going through things that seem overwhelming, that seems like it's trying to crush you or it's attempting to crush you. It has your back because there is something that I believe you are in need of learning. And with the situation that's happening for all of us, which is a global situation, there is something that we need to learn on a global perspective, that we need to change and adapt the way that we communicate with the earth, the way that we communicate with each other, the way that we do business. It's, you know, things are going to be changing. And this is the time to kind of like adapt those new spaces of change. Oh, thanks, Maria. Love you too. You're amazing. Of adapting to that change and getting to a space where you learn how to manage different environments as things change, and we're not in a state of fear and behaving out of fear, because when we are in fear, we're limiting our perspective and the amount of creativity that we can evolve and tap into from a soul perspective and also from a global collective perspective. You know, I was talking to my dad on the phone the other day, and I've been posting it on Instagram because I thought it was a really great quote from him. And he said to me, life is about solving problems. And if you want to have a decent life, try to laugh while you're solving all those problems. Because if you're not laughing, then you're in another space where it just becomes overwhelming, and we don't want you to be overwhelming. Or Hi, Lionheart, how are you? Glad to see you. I call her Lionheart because she is Leo, and Leo is my North Node, which is where I'm trying to progress. So that fire energy. And if you guys want to know a bit about myself, or about me, I live in New York. I've lived in New York for a very long time. I originally came from Haiti when I was 7, and I lived in Louisiana for a very long time. And oh yeah, our dad is super smart. That's my sister. My sister just put our dad is really smart. He is. He's really smart. And sometimes, so I grew up with that. Going off on a tangent, I grew up with someone who constantly asked me to question things. And it can, like when you're young and you're like a teenager, you're like, dude, what are you talking about? And as you get older and you start to see these things in your life, and you're like, oh, that's what he was talking about. He wasn't completely insane and just like forcing us to, you know, be conforming to a certain ideology of his own. He was trying to help us through his own experiences to be prepared for the world. And I think, and I get the sense that a lot of the generations after me, so I'm an 80s baby, are having a really hard time knowing who they are. Like they're really amazing at being creative, at understanding how to be selfish, how to connect with themselves and be themselves, but at the same time, they're easily influenced. And I haven't meditated on that to really get a sense of why that is. And it maybe if you are in the chat and you're of a younger generation, let me know what your perspective is. Sometimes I suspect is the amount of information that you grew up with, because you grew up with cell phones when I didn't. Yes, questioning things makes you think for yourself, and that's an important tool that some of us don't have, like being analytical. And I watch some things on YouTube, and sometimes I'll pass them on to my siblings and stuff like that, and I pass it on so they can get a different perspective of what's going on. Like when I go on the internet, I read comments. That's most of the time I'm not even listening to what the person is saying. I do listen and I try to gain a sense of what the objective is or what the foundation is. But a lot of the times I'm reading comments because I'm trying to understand what people are thinking, where they're at, and how they are processing this information. Are they analyzing it, or are they just like, yes, tell me how to live my life, tell me what I need to do, and tell me how to get to the place that I want to get? And admittedly, I used to be like that. I used to just want the answer, like, hey, God, or whomever, Jesus, my angels, my friends, my dad, tell me how to live my life. Tell me exactly what I need to do. School, tell me I need to get a diploma in this, and tell me that once I get this diploma, I'll have a job and I'll be able to make money. And that's not the way it happens. For me, it hasn't. And for some people, maybe that's the way their life has been progressing. But for me, certainly, it has not been that. So back to Lionheart's question or comment, asking questions makes you think for yourself. And that it's really important to think for yourself and to constantly be in a space where you're analyzing the information that you're getting, not in a way that you don't believe anything anymore and you question everything, but there has to be a level of questioning, because if you didn't question your own existence, like, then how do you question things, other things, and say, you know what, I get a sense that this is off. I get a sense that something's not quite right. And so it allows you to tap into your own intuition too, and understand when you are coming from a space of being influenced by someone else, or just coming from a space of connecting with your intuition, connecting with your soul, because this is what this is about. Excuse me, soul to soul conversations where we get deep. And getting deep with your soul is something that takes work. In my experience, it takes understanding your shadow aspect. And by shadow aspect, I mean the things that are kind of like the dark aspects of each one of us. And it's recognizing it and understanding that you're capable of doing some really fucked up shit, excuse my French, or really like messed up things in life. Not because you're, for any of, uh, yes, that is so true. You do learn by searching for the answers, by, connecting with different souls and getting different information. And then you kind of from there make your own sense of what your philosophy is with the world and how it connects to the collective. I'm certainly all about like finding yourself and understanding yourself, but at the same time, there has to be a process of understanding how you connect and contribute to the collective. And that definitely goes with doing the research and getting to know different perspectives in life. Yeah, so it is certainly that kind of like energy of connecting with yourself. I kind of lost my train of thought. I hope that's okay. But yeah, it's something. So going back to me, like I said before, I've been in New York for a long time. And how did I get started with this? Doing soul talking, being on a spiritual path. It kind of just happened because in my 30s, like my late 20s and my 30s, my life just kind of changed. A lot of things happened for me to question myself to question the patterns I had noticed that I was repeating. And that goes with knowing yourself, because once you start to recognize yourself and to pay attention to you and understanding you, you start to recognize the patterns that you are repeating in life. And I was repeating patterns that weren't good for me, and not good for me in like a destructive way, but not good for me in the sense that I was running in a circle. And when you're running in a circle, you're not going to get very far. So I was chasing myself, and it was just like, and I had an epiphany. And that epiphany was, oh, thank you, thank you, thank you. Yeah, yeah, I have a young face. I think it's genetics. Like my dad looks really young. All my siblings, we all look really young. And I guess it's also the fact that, I mean, I don't know, some nutritional things too. Like I don't really drink a lot. I do drink, and I have been in spaces where I'm drinking, to keep up with my friends or something like that. But in general, I'm not a drinker. Yeah, I kind of eat, I used to be a vegan. I'm not a vegan anymore, but yeah, I think it's a combination of genetics and just the things that I practice on a daily basis. But yeah, I was repeating a pattern, and it's like, whoa, dude, you've been doing the same thing forever. What do you do? And I had that epiphany where it's like, stop caring, because I realized that everything that I was doing was because I was really in a space of caring what everybody thought of me, like what my dad thought of me, what my family thought of me, all those little things. Yeah, yeah, being from Louisiana helps. Yeah, that definitely kind of calm space, Yeah, Louisiana was very calm. As I get older, I appreciate the environment more, because New York is constantly moving, and you pass people and you don't know them. I mean, I live in the apartment building, and I've lived here for so long, and I can say, honestly say, I know very few people in the building. And also the building has been changing for a really long time, so it's hard to keep up with what's going on. But yeah, so I was repeating a pattern, and I had the epiphany to stop caring about what people thought of me. And then it kind of spiraled into who I am now. And that's why I always say, get to know yourself. Get to know yourself, because that's important in establishing good relationships. It's important in establishing your, yeah, in general, just your relationships, because your relationships have a lot to do with how you're progressing in the world and the decisions that you make, the people that you're connected to, the people that you attract in your life, and that kind of spirals into the other aspects of your life. So your relationships are really important. So that was a big thing for me. And tarot, because I'm an introvert, like that was a way of having those conversations with myself and just keeping it to myself. So it's like, all right, like I've gone to psychics, I've gone to birth chart people to read my birth chart, and I never got the answer that I wanted. And I was expecting them, like I said before, to tell me exactly. I remember I wrote someone, I was like, so I'm looking for you to analyze my birth chart. Tell me exactly what I need to do to establish X, Y, and Z. And of course, the person took my money, but it never happened that I got to the information of telling me X, Y, and Z. And that's why sometimes when I do readings for people, yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, that's what happens. Once you stop caring about what people think, it takes you on a whole other space. And I remember sitting with my aunt, and she said to me, she's an Aquarius. She says to me, you know, something you're changing. And I said to her, you know what? Tati, which is aunt in Creole, I said, I stopped giving an F what people thought of me or think of me. She's like, she gave me this because, you don't do that. In her world, I'm still like a little kid. And for me to like say that to her, and it wasn't disrespectful or anything because we have that kind of relationship. And she was like, okay. Shook her head at me. I was like, all right, yeah, yeah, that's what's happening. I've stopped caring. And so once you start caring, stop caring, you again open up yourself, and then you start to like tackle different aspects of yourself. Your shadow is, yeah, your shadow is one of those things that you have to come to terms with. Like, you're capable, just like you can judge someone for doing something, you're likely capable of doing that too. And it's choosing to do the right thing. And when people say light worker, good or bad, uh, it's more about choosing to do the right thing for yourself and the collective. Yeah, so that was a big thing for me. And today I was like, well, if no one shows up, and I have to just talk to the camera, I'm going to talk about or speak about fear versus respect, because I was meditating, and I had this epiphany, and I was like, huh, what are you trying to lead me at? Fear versus respect. Like, fear, you get scared. Fear teaches us to respect boundaries. I was like, oh, because when you think about it, when you're scared of something, so let's establish that fear, there's nothing wrong with being scared. We are. Ah, thank you. Thank you. You've been such a great support. You and Maria, definitely a support. You guys always IM me, leave me messages, and encourage me. And I want to say from the bottom of my heart, it is always so warming, because sometimes when you're doing this and you think you're talking to the air and you're not. Ah, thanks, Maria. Yeah, you think you're just not helping anyone. It's like, oh, and then you meet people like you and Maria Lionheart. It really helps to kind of just say, yeah, you know what? I am on the right path. I am doing something, and I am contributing something to the world, because, as a Virgo rising, Virgo is the good Samaritan of the zodiac. And I definitely want to be a good Samaritan and help my collective, and not necessarily leave a mark because of ego or anything like that, but leave a mark because I want people to be better, in the sense that to enjoy their life, because things can be really difficult. Yeah, things can be so difficult sometimes. But going back to the fear versus respect, it's like, oh, so yeah, fear protects us. Like, if you are scared of a lion, in the sense that a lion is much bigger than you, and if you don't have the tools, ah, great. I'm so happy to hear that. It really warms my heart to hear that, that I have helped you. Um, yeah, when like you're scared of a lion, for example, right? It teaches you not to step that boundary of trying to like attack the lion or do something that puts you in danger. So it's about boundaries. So when you come to a space of fear, you respect those boundaries, and then attempting to overcome those boundaries the within the things that you have available. So this can go in different respects, like physical, right? Or intellectual or spiritually. How can I cross those boundaries? Or is there a time where I can say, you know what? I respect this level of fear or being uncomfortable enough to know that right now at this time I can't overcome this. And so how do I get into a space of designing my new normal? And I'm bringing this up again because I linked a PDF to Sandy, who is a life coach. She's a certified life coach, and I've worked with her on a professional level. I don't know if I did mention this before, but in case you missed it, and her information is in the link. And the PDF is talking. It touches on like 4 bullet points, and one of them is recognizing how you're feeling right now, if whatever situation, but specifically we're talking about COVID-19 and the fact that most of us around the world are kind of in lockdown, and our environment has changed for most of us, and we don't have the freedom that we used to, and there's this tiny microscopic virus that's causing us an enormous amount of fear. And I was joking with my dad too. I'm like, Dad, we're in a war. He's like, yeah, we're in a war with a virus. So this tiny microscopic thing that you can't see. And these things can not just happen as a virus physically, but a virus of the mind with regards to how we think and allow our mind to be polluted and our heart and soul to be polluted in such a way that we don't live the life that we want. And we're kind of stuck in a space of fear and seeing demons and negativity all around us. And it's like when you come to a space where you recognize, yes, there are demons in the world, there are bad things in the world, but there are also really good things in the world, and you can find your balance. You recognize the bad, but you're making a decision to work towards living your best life. I think that's really precious. And that really brings us to a space of respecting the fear, respecting the limitations, and finding ways to overcome them once we are able to set those systems in place. And one of the other topics she talks about is recognizing that you need to take care of yourself, that you need self compassion. And that's a lot of things I think women sometimes probably don't do. Especially now, things have changed where women are mothers, they're business owners, they're working, they're doing so much. Some people are going back to school. There's a lot of expectations from our own individual selves about where we need to be in the world, what we need to be doing in the world. And I'm sure the masculine has its own challenges with the woman being able to hold some of the space in those areas that they dominated at some point. So there has to be a balance of that too. And so by recognizing how you need to take care of yourself, you take all those things into account. And another point she brought up was grounding yourself, bringing yourself into a space of understanding. Yeah, I completely agree with you. Yeah, things do happen and for a reason. I agree with you 100% with that. Even in my own life, I can say that everything happened for a reason, and those things that happened caused me pain, caused me loss, caused me to what's the word I'm looking for? To I can't think of the word. Yeah, definitely to betray my own. That's the word I'm looking. To betray myself, my own. To betray my soul. Like I went against myself, against my grain, against what I knew was right. So, yeah, and it taught me, I needed to learn that because for a long time I was so focused on pleasing other people that I lost myself. And I was also so focused on what people had told me when I was, when I was young and didn't have the defense mechanisms, didn't understand what was happening on a psychological level. And those seeds were planted in me, and I had to allow them to grow and then cut them and say, you know what, I'm good. Deuces to those seeds because those seeds are planted in us in different levels or areas of our lives, and they affect us on a really big scale, especially when they're planted early. And another point that she brought was, how do you want to live? So recognizing how you want to live right here, right now. So her message to me was really about being present and understanding how being present helps you to find a space of caring for yourself, of grounding yourself, and of coming to a space of acceptance that this is my current situation and I will be okay until I can traverse and see, get over the mountain and get to the valley. And, I think I've said it before, like just because you get to the valley doesn't mean everything's going to be perfect in the valley. You might run into something else that you need to learn. So all of this is a learning experience. So I'm talking a lot. Do you guys want me to start pulling some cards, or do you just want me to continue chatting in your ear? You let me know. Yeah, so until I get an IM, I'll just continue to talk. And I actually recently, oh, well, I'll go back to telling you a bit about myself a little longer. So, in my 20s, my late 20s, 30s, I was in the process of doing a lot of things and I was disappointed by a lot of different things. One of them was going back to school because I had majored in art. I studied photography and painting. And yeah, so I graduated school and I couldn't find a job really in that area or what I wanted to do. I tried to teach, but I guess you needed a teaching degree at that time as well. And when I applied for graduate school, I just didn't want to pay more money. I get really weird about paying money. Oh, thank you, Maria. Paying money to continue to learn things that won't have like an end result where I can pay my student loans back. So, art is really beautiful. Yeah. Yeah, yeah. So I'll pull some cards towards the end because I do have some cards that I want to pull for you guys and talk about. But yeah, as long as we're living and breathing, we're going to have challenges. That I mean, yeah, you can see it. Like when we talk about, I'm going on a tangent. When we talk about the micro and the macrocosm, the studying of yourself, like your heart, your esophagus, the way you breathe, everything. When you study yourself, you understand that even within your own systems. Ah, thank you. I know. I'm just talking about everything. Even with yourself, you kind of understand that there are challenges within yourself. So if there are challenges within yourself, there are challenges within your own body, like within the universe as well. Like your cells continuously have to break down and reform themselves. And unfortunately, every time it seems to kind of degrade a little bit, and it shows in our physical because we get older. Our skin gets a little wrinkly, our hair gets a little white, and like things change. You're not as limber as you used to be or as flexible as you used to be. So even within our own construct, there are challenges. And I was thinking the other day, your colon is probably your shadow side in your body because it deals with all the crap, excuse my French, and but you need it. Yeah, it's a lifelong process. It's a lifelong process. You're absolutely right. It's a lifelong process. Yeah, it deals with all the stuff that you have to get rid of. But if you didn't have it, you would be, it would be a problem. So just think about that. Like whether or not you believe me or anybody else that's telling you information, study your body, study yourself, and then you'll start to see the connection with the earth and everything else. So, yeah. So going back to me again, if yeah, so I was going to school and I was paying all this money and I was getting into more and more debt. So I studied art and I wanted to, first, my family convinced me to go to nursing school. And I really didn't want to be a nurse, but everybody wanted me to be a nurse. So I went, so I quit. So in 2008, the market crashed and I had an opportunity to go back to school. I was always a very good little saver. So I had an opportunity because, I had no job. I went back to school. So once I got into school, I was like, I don't want to be a nurse. Let me just be a doctor because if I can be a doctor, I'll get the respect that I need and everybody will know that I am awesome within my family, right? And I did everything. I studied. I was so diligent, but I could not connect the information in such a way that I could take an examination. Like, so when I took the MCATs, completely blanked out. Intuitively, completely blanked out. Like, it was like I was sitting in there taking the test. I was sweating. My palms were wet, like literally, because I blanked out completely. Yeah. chasing my tail, looking for perfection because I felt like I needed to, and this was no pressure that was ever put on me, but I took on this pressure of of taking my family to the next level, like within my family. Like my dad is really smart, and he's a Libra. He's super intellectual, but I feel like he's never reached the pinnacle of what he could be or what he wants to be. And I was like, I'm going to do that for you, Dad. And by, doing something really that I know you'll be proud of, that when you talk to people, you can be like, yes, my daughter is this, my kids are this. Because, so I took on that pressure. Not that he ever put it on me. He just wanted me to be able to survive in the world and be able to take care of myself, because my dad is a teacher. He had multiple different jobs. Although he got a degree in engineering, he didn't want to be an engineer. And again, repeating patterns, recognizing the patterns that you repeat from your ancestors, from your family lineage. My father was not interested in being an engineer, but he was pushed into that specialty. And because he was pushed into it, because he wasn't passionate about it, he ended up being unhappy and doing multiple things, trying to find that happiness, trying to find what Maria said, chasing his tail, looking for perfection, looking for that. I can't think of the word, but looking for acceptance within our family. Yeah. Wow. That's awesome. Yeah, that's awesome. And then now you're following your dreams. And sometimes, the universe, I think sometimes we're put in positions where it's like this or that, and you have to choose the thing that really sings to your soul, because then you're breaking a pattern. Yeah. Like recently I got offered a job, and it's a job that I've wanted because it gives me the status. It brings me to a place where I'm getting the status that I've wanted, the status that I've worked for. You know, the finances are okay. It's more about status, the position. And because in my career, I've done a lateral moves, and this is would be, an upward mobility. And I felt like the universe gave me this shiny red apple and said, here it is. You've wanted it. You've worked for it for 5 years. And then there's this, what I'm doing with you. It's not exactly coming the way I wanted it to, but it makes my heart sing. It makes me happy to connect with you. It makes me happy to get to know people from across the country, across the world. And I look forward to doing it. I'm excited about doing it. Not that I'm not excited about my job. Like my job gives me finances to be able to do this. It gives me, space where I don't have to compromise the quality or what I'm giving here, because I'm not worried about the finances as much. And I'm so grateful for my job, and I continue to be grateful for it until I can transition fully into this. But by taking that position, I probably would end up spending less time here, because this would call for me to be more involved. It would energetically suck me dry because I've watched people in that position, and I'm not ready at this stage of my life to be put into that space where work becomes more important than my personal well-being. So I had to make that decision. So I completely understand. Long story short. Yeah. So yeah, so I felt like I had to get my dad's name, and I feel like my dad is a mirror of me in a sense, where he is a past that I'm looking at. Yeah, yeah. When you're an empath, whoo, I never knew what that word was, but, and I always, most of my life, I felt weird because I would pick up on people's energy And I'm like, you're full of it. Or you know what I'm saying? And it's hard to be in an office environment, in a work environment, and picking up on this energy and like having to and then the only way of like for me to deal with it was to just be an introvert. And then again, the shadow aspect of myself, when you're in that environment of competing, of having to prove to yourself, I, at some point, I could have gone to the extreme of that shadow aspect of myself, of like stepping over people, using people to get where I wanted to get. And it was like, no, as an empath, I couldn't do that because I felt really bad. I felt everything. And even at work now, I swear I'm the weirdo at work because, yeah, no one understands me. and then and then it's so funny because my ideals are so different too. Like when people ask me, "What'd you do this weekend?" Most of the time, I'm not going to tell them in the kitchen. I played with my tarot cards. I hung out with some spiritual folks. I burned some sage. They look at me like, "What the heck?" Like they don't want to hear that. So it's hard. Like meanwhile, they're like, "Yeah, we went to this restaurant. I tried this new drink. We traveled here. We did this." And I'm like, I did laundry and I went to the park." That's what I tell people. So pretty much at work, I think they know me as the person who does laundry and goes to the park. And I'm not lying because I do go to the park. So yeah, it's difficult, and I didn't know why it was so difficult for me for so long. Even when I was in school, I was a bit of a loner in high school. Like I had a group of friends, usually the nerdy group of friends. Like my best friend was a Jehovah's Witness in high school. One of them, I had like two best friends. One of them was a Cancer, just like me, kooky, and she was just crazier than I was. And I don't know what my Jehovah's Witness friend was, but she had more liberties than I did because her sister was older than us, and her sister would, yeah, thanks Maria. Her sister would take us out, and that's the only way I got to do anything in high school. But yeah, like being awkward and weird, and for a long time because I didn't know how to manage that. People told me I had I'm gonna curse, the bitch face all the time. Meanwhile, I'm like, I'm so nice, but my face would just be because it was like protective mode. I was protecting myself from having to get involved and having to feel certain things and having to play those games that people play in the corporate world, and the fake smiles sometimes, the fake enthusiasm. It's hard for me, and half of the time I just feel like I'm blah, like blah. But I try to always make people laugh at work. That's like my thing. Oh wow, I'm so sad to hear that. Yeah, it's really interesting because till this day, people still say that. Like I surf the internet, YouTube, as I mentioned before, and I hear people say that tarot is evil, like oracle cards are evil, channeling is evil, everything is evil. And I'm like, well, I mean, if you're channeling your soul and what your soul is telling you to do, how's that evil? If you're not hurting anyone, if you're not actively going out to take advantage of people. But, that's the life we lived in. I think things are going to change in that respect when people start to understand that we are all connected. And when you looked at nature, to see how nature processes things, you start to see, yeah. Yeah, yeah, and I'm probably sure if she were like ready to talk about her psychic abilities, and she would find that it's probably in her family line, and breaking that cycle is probably acknowledging any, there's something that she needs to acknowledge about that gift to help her progress. Yeah, we suppress our gifts all the time, and I work with someone who doesn't necessarily like her job, and I just tell her, or to kind of figure out what she likes to do outside of work, and even if it's overwhelming, do it little by little. And but sometimes somebody told me that sometimes not that I'm saying your mom is miserable or anything, but sometimes people like to be in their space, and whatever that space is. It could be, misery. It could be just being completely closed minded because they feel safe in that space. Because once you get out of there, like the limitations that you put, it's just like, whoa, so much. The world is so full, and then so much can happen. So, our live chat is going into 48 minutes. And I know Maria has a live chat that she's going to be doing today. Well, not a live chat, but she's going live today at some point, or if she hasn't already. So, yeah, I definitely want to let you guys go and do what you're going to do. Oh, wow. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I think also sometimes because that stuff is so feared, it's always been feared, you know, um, it's hard to, and then, people, women have been sacrificed because of that fear, because of people not respecting that science can't explain everything. No, it's not evil. Science can't explain everything. And so once people don't respect that the universe has mysteries that it wants you to discover, but if you're unwilling to discover it, you're like limiting yourself, and the answers won't come to you. And we're noticing that science and spirituality are coming together. Yeah. So before we close off our chat today, and I want to thank you guys so much for joining me. I was so nervous about this because, it's like a first date, and you're like, oh, well, I wonder what I'm going to wear. I wonder, what am I going to talk about? Can I be myself? And also, if anybody's single, dating became better when I stopped caring about what people thought about me and when I started dating for myself. And I don't mean like going on a date by yourself. I mean going on a date and connecting with someone and not caring what that person thinks of you and just being yourself and enjoying your company and their company. It just, you'll always have fun. Even if the date, yeah, for sure, for sure. We're going to have to do this again. I'm glad you guys had fun. I will, if you want me to, I will continue to do this. So I'm going to pull a card just to close this off from this young man. It's called the Orbifold Tarot. And it's one of those tarots that's really, what's the word I'm looking for? Intuitive, because it doesn't have any pictures of people in it. And it's kind of like, okay, kind of dealing with an intuitive aspect of yourself and connecting with and the back is kind of like the flower of life. So it's very geometric, circles, creating layers and layers of information that you tap into. I got them from the website. It's called Orbifold Tarot. I'll leave it in the comment where I got them from. And it's not a Kickstarter or anything, but I don't know, like he's not selling it through Amazon or anything. You would have to get it through his website. And the way I discovered this deck was actually, I think some tarot people were having one of those things where they like talked about their favorite decks, and he happened to talk about his favorite deck, and it was his own creation. I was like, oh, I love this because there's no people in it. It allows me to just connect with my intuition and talk about what I'm feeling, right away. And one thing as a reader sometimes, or even when I'm having soul to soul conversations, which I've been learning to do, is balance the information, because sometimes I don't like to give people bad news. So I kind of like try to word the information Oh, okay. Yeah, yeah. Oh, you did tell me that. Yeah, you did. Yeah, yeah. His is definitely on a website. I don't think you can find it in a shop or anything like that. So we got the two of air. So this is balancing. This is about bringing things together so that you understand that there is an aspect of you that's going to have negative thoughts, negative energies within you, but there's also an aspect of you that needs to connect to the positive aspects of yourself, the positive thoughts, the things that you have done already that help you to kind of bring into balance a sense of understanding what's happening around you, how you can find the positive in that and be a balanced person and grow and evolve from that. And here you have two circles and they're intersecting each other. It kind of reminds me. Oh yeah, these are from my collection, the Soul to Soul supplements on my website. I haven't launched them yet. Thank you for bringing that up. Yeah, so this is sun sun quartz, I think. And the earrings are going to be on there too, but I'm still working on the technical aspects of it because I find that they're hard to put on. So I probably have to change this. And yeah, this is an adjustable. This one is a rose quartz. I'm wearing my grandma's watch because she's a Capricorn and I wanted to connect with her to make sure that this energy is grounded. I'm wearing red because this is the root chakra, and I wanted to be balanced for you and make sure that I didn't go too far off into the heavens in my discussion. But yeah, so be mindful of what you're thinking, be mindful of what you're bringing into the forefront of your mind, and to really find balance within that. And these two circles interacting kind of remind me of a Venn diagram, right? Where you have to find common ground in the ideas, the information that, oh, thank you. Yeah, 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 yeah. I'm not a jeweler, so I'm always scared and I quality control things, and that's why it's taking me so long because I make the stuff and then I wear it and I see how long it lasts. I see, where I can improve it. So it's taking me a long time, but I do have some prototypes that have withstood the test of time that I will be launching and putting out there. And also another reason where it's been hard to launch it's finding the raw material, the product that I want, because I want big pieces. Thank you. I want big pieces like this because then it can be, connected to the skin directly where I'm not wrapping in a bunch of wire and, yeah, I want, yeah. And it's hard to find big pieces. Like this is a big stone. I think it's like 13 millimeters. Is that the right word? No, it's not 13 millimeters, but it's a big stone. And so I want it to be big so it can have that direct connection. And then finding, and then I use copper because I read somewhere a long time ago that copper is good for like carpal tunnel and arthritis and stuff like that. But eventually, if it does well enough, I'll definitely invest in more precious metals and stuff like that. But yeah, right now it's really just to help you connect, with that energy and for it to look nice. And that's another thing too. I wanted to be able to wear this to work and for it to be professional enough because sometimes when you're wire wrapping it looks very like natural, and a lot of times work environments are not natural or not bohemian. You have to, you're wearing pearls, you're wearing diamond studs. People, where I work in high luxury, so everybody's always tip top shape. And for me, my bohemian dress and my copper jewelry, I'm already awkward enough as it is. So anyway, yeah. So be mindful of the thoughts that you're having and find that balance, find those intersections where things are working for you and put that in your mind's eye, focus on that because that reminds me of an eye. And yeah, you know how it is. So yeah, 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 yeah. I that's another thing I did. I stopped trying to keep up at work with people. Like, I still dress professionally, but I was spending so much money on dry cleaning. I was like, no, I have to stop doing this. I have to stop trying to keep up with executives when I'm not making executive budget. Like, uh, anyway, going back to this, focus two of air, focus on the information that you're bringing into your environment, and find balance and those things that intersect with each other, and let that be what drives you forward, not the extremes of one aspect of something or another. And remember that fear is something that's natural, but it's about having respect and understanding the boundaries that are being set forth, and how you can overcome them with with time, and how you learn to be in your space, to be present even when things are not happy go lucky, because life is about teaching us about problems, right, and challenges, and how to overcome them. So with that, is there anything else you guys want to say? Because probably a good time to sign off. And again, thank you so much. Yeah. Oh, focus is one of your strong suits. Yeah. Yeah. That's great. Yeah. I don't have a lot of air in my chart, nor do I have a lot of fire in my chart. So I'm like water and all earth. So for those of you who are into astrology and understand the elements, just think about that for a little bit. All right. Thank you so much. You have a great day too. Maria, I'm going to find out when your chat is, so I'll email you because I couldn't find it in the comment section. When exactly it started. Thank you. Love you too, sis. Aw, thank you so much for joining. And don't be afraid to give me your feedback and let me know off camera what you thought of it. All right. So I guess this is my goodbyes. Thank you. Bye, guys. Bye to everyone. Stay safe. Oh, I'm glad. I'm glad. I'm glad you liked it. Me too. I had so much fun. I was nervous, but I had no idea how much fun I was actually going to have. But it's easy to have fun when you're connecting with people who are on your vibration and who always support you. And I have to say that everybody in this chat is always supportive. All right. Bye, guys.